Hey, my name is Evan, and in this video, it's the start of a five-part series on vegan business, and this one's going to be focusing on consumer foods and what to know before investing. And if you're new to the channel, I post different entrepreneurship and online digital marketing videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And if you really like the content and got some value from this and it helped you make some decisions on what businesses are going to be up and trending right now, I would really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button as well as leave me a link and also leave me a nice comment on what kind of consumer foods you're most excited about. And if you are not a vegan and you're not plant-based, I would really like to know your thoughts on vegan investing and if you've tried any plant-based products and really liked it and wanted to invest in some of that, because there is big opportunity right now inside of the vegan community and inside of vegan business, because as it's proven over the last 3 years on Google Trends, that veganism is not a trend, even though I looked it up on Google Trends, but veganism is not a trend. It's pretty much like flatlined or it's increasing right now from its surge in 2016. And just a bit of a backstory, yes, I've been vegan since September 1st, 2015. I went vegan overnight. I had a whole binge my last week of being a carnivore, as anyone would say it, with like 4 Big Macs, like 2 Whoppers, and all that sort of fun stuff. But I went vegan overnight for the health reasons, because I went to a whole bunch of music festivals in the summer previous in the last couple of years. So I actually was starting to get a little chubby. So I went for the health reasons, and then I shifted my focus to the environmental reasons. Because I found there's a lot of hypocrisy in the political community about environmentalism, and a lot of people preaching environmentalism but weren't actually vegan themselves. And being vegan and going against the animal agriculture business and the animal agriculture lobby is a really awesome way to be in totally environmental and paying for environmental policy with your actual dollars, which is what I'm a big believer in. I'm a big believer in capitalism and in making sure that more and more vegan products become available to other people, so that they become cheaper, and more and more people end up eating more plant-based, because it's not just better for my own personal morals, but I think it's also better for the overall health of a society as well, going more plant-based. So let's talk a bit about consumer foods and investing. So this is the third of a 5-part series on vegan businesses and investing. They'll be posting over the next 5 weeks. And yeah, I want to talk a little bit about consumer foods and why it's a great investment opportunity for both vegans and non-vegans as well. And like I did mention, going over Google Trends, it's not veganism isn't a trend. It's only increasing with time. And now that more and more government policy is being in favor of veganism, like a recent government policy in Canada just went against a cruelty-free just in favor of cruelty-free cosmetics. So they're banning animal testing here in Canada, which is excellent. So more and more companies are going to be shifting towards cruelty-free products as well as plant-based products. So let's get right into it, and let's talk a bit about consumer foods and 3 reasons why of 3 things that you need to know before investing. So first one is meat alternatives, for example, Just Foods and Beyond Meat. And this is a great way to kind of know like what the curve is on where people are going, where people are spending their actual dollars. In Canada, last summer in 2018, A&W, which is a huge fast food chain here in Canada, I'm trying to think of the equivalent of what it is down in America. It's probably what's the guy that used to be on SNL? I forget his name. Not Popeyes. It's Jack in the Box. So it's pretty much the equivalent of Jack in the Box, I find, here in Canada. It's found like everywhere. Whenever I go into Washington State, I live in Vancouver, Canada. Whenever I go into Washington State, I always see Jack in the Boxes advertised all over the place. So it's kind of like that, where A&W, when you're traveling on the road here in Canada in a rural area, you'll either find 1, a Subway, or 2, you'll find A&W. Either one of those 2, and most likely it's an A&W if you're traveling into rural parts of Canada as a fast food chain. So A&W brought on the Beyond Burger to their actual food chart. So the Beyond Burger came out, and in I think it was June of 2018 or July of 2018. Got to double check which month it is, but it it pretty much blew up here in Canada because there's not much options for in the vegan fast food chain here in Canada. While in the States there might be a bit more competition for vegan products, vegan foods, here in Canada there really isn't much. So as soon as one of the fast food chains just offered the plant-based burger from Beyond Meat, it exploded and it actually sold out in about 6 weeks or something like that, a month or 6 weeks. And A&W actually had a big panic because they sold out across all of Canada, and so they had to wait a couple months for Beyond to actually meet up with the demand because they didn't expect that many people to be purchasing this burger, both vegan and non-vegans. And it was mostly the non-vegans that were purchasing this burger, and that kind of shocked a lot of the people, I think, inside of A&W, where hey, they didn't expect this to explode as much. And now I think the figures came out for 2018 pretty recently that the Beyond Burger actually surpassed their main staple Teen Burger at A&W. So it's pretty crazy to kind of know that the meat alternatives are just exploding right now. They're becoming more and more popular. More and more popular, and a lot of them, while a lot of them I don't think are as healthy, or they are just as healthy as the actual meat alternative or the actual meat itself. Like I think the Beyond Burger, like some of it, like there's just as much salt and there's just as much fat that's inside of it, but there's just no cholesterol. But there is a lot of fat that's inside of the Beyond Burger. So you do have to take a lot of that into consideration, but they're only going to get better and more healthy as the more money and the more investing that they're going to end up getting. Sorry, my hair is really crazy today. I slept on it weird. And there's a ton of opportunity that's going on in the meat alternative side of consumer foods, where Beyond Meat is now trying to get their IPO done this year, and they will either be on the become a public company this year in 2019 or next year in 2020. Time that I'm filming this, it's February of 2019. So who knows what it's going to be leading down to, but it's very exciting. And also Just Foods and how they're making lab meat right now, and making it taste exactly like the real thing, and using like different like multicellular level of meat, so that it's not actually harming any animals and the consumption of this meat. So it's very exciting stuff that's coming on. I don't know if it's going to be viable in the future. If this is going to be a short-term thing with Just and Beyond, but there's going to be so many companies that are going to be doing very healthy meat alternatives that taste exactly the same. So I'm very excited for that, and that's why it's one of the big reasons and one of the things to know before investing into vegan companies in the consumer food industry. Next one is dairy versus plant-based milk. So 10 years ago, if you went into a regular grocery store, you would find that in the dairy aisle, so the milk aisle, that probably about like the whole shelves, everything was just dairy milk, while there might have been like one or two rows of soy milk, maybe. Now I'll go into my local grocery store, like Safeway, for example, and it'll only be half dairy milk and the other half is going to be plant-based milk. So that's rice milk, hemp milk, soy milk, almond milk, cashew milk, like you name it. Even potato milk, like London Drugs here in Canada. London Drugs sells potato milk, which is crazy. Like I've tried it, and it actually, I think that and rice milk are probably the two closer ones to actual milk, other than any of the products, because a lot of them are filtered with water. So you do have to be careful of which ones you do purchase. But it's crazy to see the evolution over the last 10 years of divestment in people purchasing and consuming stuff that comes from cows to consuming milk that comes from plant-based animals. And I think there's been a lot of studies coming out recently that milk actually causes accelerates or not just atherosclerosis, but it also arthritis. When it used to be conceived that, oh, milk is for healthy bones, dairy milk's for healthy bones, but it actually it causes a lot of inflammation and arthritis to go on from consuming a lot of dairy products. So that's why plant-based milks are actually growing in popularity right now. And just seeing the investment opportunities that are going in with all of these small plant-based milk makers that are actually ended up getting purchased by the big milk agency, like, oh, big milk. But that's one of the things about investing into startups and investing into plant-based companies, that a lot of these big established companies right now that are in the animal agriculture industry, they only care about their bottom line. They only care about the money. They don't care, like they can sell dairy milk as long as it's profitable. But as soon as it's not profitable and plant-based milk is more profitable to them and their bottom line, they're going to ditch dairy milk in favor of plant-based milk. And that's what you're kind of seeing inside of grocery stores right now, where now it's like 50-50. If you go in, 50% dairy, 50% plant-based milk. So it's an interesting time to kind of see, and going into different startups and seeing plant-based milks and their types of startups where they're going to be purchased by these big companies that are in the milk industry, and it's very promising for investors to go into it, and because that's kind of like where things are going right now inside of the milk industry, and yeah, it's kind of crazy, and that's one of the things that I'm interested in as an investor into seeing that trend of dairy versus plant-based milk and where it's going to go, and what a lot of the big companies are doing right now in order to purchase up all of their competition, because people are now just purchasing plant-based milk instead of dairy milk, which is an excellent thing in my opinion. And the last one is egg substitutes. This one I'm kind of interested in. I know Just Foods has an egg substitute where it's kind of like a powdered egg. But this is one of the things that I think is a lot more growth, and we haven't really touched on quite a bit for egg substitutes, because I don't think that we've been able to actually categorize and actually make much in the way of egg substitutes that are actually like eggs, like cracking open an egg or anything like that, and the actual like hardiness of an egg. I was never a fan of eggs while growing up as a non-vegan. I was never a really big fan until I started traveling a lot more, and then I realized that it was really cheap to get eggs. But the egg industry is it's not very good. A lot of the eggs are at a lot of chickens. They when they're first born, a lot of the male chicks, they're literally just not. They throw them out. There's no need for them. They gas them, or they just put them into a grinder as soon as they're born. A lot of the male chicks, because there's no need for them. You can find videos of that online. I don't have to explain that much to you. If you're vegan, you kind of know about that. If you're not vegan, I would recommend looking that up for yourself. Where 50% of the actual chickens, it's such a wasteful, very wasteful industry, and a lot of the chickens are like in cages, and they're not very well fed, and they're, even if they're not in cages and they're free range. Free range just means that like they're able to walk around kind of, but they're locked inside of this like big tent all day. And you can look into Tyson Foods and their free range chickens a lot of the time. While people are like, oh, like I buy from my local farm or whatever, I'm like, that's great, but that's not most of the eggs that's out there. That's only probably about 2 or 3% of the eggs are actually from these local farms that go out and have their chickens like go out and run around, and then they just collect the eggs and stuff like that, or home-based chickens or whatever. But a lot of them are in these industrial farms, which is around 97% of those eggs are from there. But I find that there is a lot of opportunity right now in the consumer foods industry in order to grow egg substitutes and to make them a lot more viable, because I think that's one of the holes that's missing inside of the consumer foods, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity for investors in looking at egg substitutes and plant-based egg substitutes now into the future, because there hasn't really been that much like perfection going into it. Like tofu scramble is great, but it's still not like, it's not as hearty as an egg or anything like that. That's where I think that a company like Just may actually purchase from someone in like a lab grown egg or something like that, where it's a cruelty-free egg, where they literally just use the cells and stuff like that, which is not cruelty-based. And I'm kind of a realist in knowing that people don't want to give up their meat, they don't want to give up like their eggs, they won't want to give up their dairy. You just have to make a better product, and you have to make it more viable, more economically viable, and more available for people. And I think that egg substitutes is a great investment opportunity for a lot of people going into startups, because it will get purchased by either Just Foods, who's in that lab grown meat industry, as well as as well as some of the big guys that are egg producers as well. And now that you guys have stick around for the end of this video, I would highly recommend that you get this free book on 5 ways on how you can invest into vegan companies. I'm going to link that down in the description as well as the comment section down below. And if you're really interested in investing in different vegan companies, I've partnered up with a company called Vegan Launch who look for vegan startups, who look for a whole bunch of different plant-based and cruelty-free companies in order for you to invest in. So you don't have to look for it yourself, and you know that all of your money is going into these cruelty-free and plant-based companies. So I partnered with Vegan Launch, and you can check that out as well. I'll put that link in the description as well as the comment section down below. And if you have any questions about veganism or anything like that, you can follow me on Instagram at @thegilbygilbs. I'll put that down in the description and in the comment section below. And I would love to answer some of your questions if you're curious about veganism itself, and you're also curious about the plant-based lifestyle, plant-based companies, and where they may or may not go into the future. I can't tell what the future is. I can only look at the data and where the trends are going. And if you look on Google Trends right now, veganism is only growing and growing and growing as time goes on since 2015. So once again, my name is Evan. And if you enjoyed this content, you can subscribe. I'll be uploading more and more videos about vegan investing and plant-based investing as well. You can hit the subscribe button as well as give me a thumbs up, and you can comment down below on if you're excited about the Beyond Meat IPO or just meat, or what kind of vegan foods are your favorites, especially those that are not vegan. What kind of food kind of changed your mind about vegan products over the last few years? Because there's been a lot of mindset shift in people where I have friends that will go out and buy the Beyond Burger even though they're meat eaters because it tastes better than the actual meat product, and they don't feel crappy after they eat it. Because a lot of time when you eat something that kind of groggy and it's processed meat and stuff, you feel kind of groggy, kind of crappy after, while they actually feel a lot better after consuming something like a Beyond Burger, for example. And once again, my name is Evan. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next video.